How's it going, my truant people? Dr. Slacking, the Slacking Doctor, back with week 6 of the PGBL. And this week, your Bowler and Bovines are going up against MrChabry and his Kentucky Typhlosions. I did look that up after Team Builder, because in Team Builder, I was getting him confused with Silver Smash's team, the Floridian Typhlosions. But yes, it is the Kentucky Typhlosions. This is week 6, as I said. Going into this, I believe we are currently 3-2, so we really want to win here to try and correct our, well, not correct our record, but open up that gap again so that we're not just breaking even at 3-3. I don't want to do that. I want to stay positive, so we really need a big win here. This is our third and final out of division game, and so far we've lost to both of our other out of division rivals, if you like, that we played this season. So I definitely want to make sure that we don't just go 0-3 against the other division, especially as I was kind of told that the other division looked weaker on paper than ours. Yeah, that would be pretty poor. So I definitely want to try and step up and win this game, put a lot of work into this one. If you haven't seen the Team Builder already, that should have gone up yesterday, assuming this goes up on Saturday. If for some reason it's been delayed till Sunday, then the Team Builder was up on Friday. Either way, go and check out the Team Builder. I will do a quick breakdown of our team now for those of you that weren't able to watch that. But we've got a pretty scary matchup here, but I feel like we can do work if we play it carefully. So, kicking us off here, we have Hearts and Nidoqueen. This is a relatively spadef Nidoqueen with double stab plus double hazards in T-Spikes and Stealth Rocks. If you look at my opponent's team, it's pretty T-Spike weak. Lopunny doesn't like getting worn down by T-Spikes, particularly in combination with something else, which I'll get into shortly. Raikou, especially if it's like a Calm Mind or sub-variant, doesn't like being worn down by T-Spikes. And of course, having spadef Nidoqueen is really nice for Raikou anyway. Then there's things like Dusknoir and Licky, which are just pretty bulky and can be hard to break through that are susceptible to T-Spikes. Yes, there's 2 immunities on my opponent's team, but neither of those get recovery. I can pressure them pretty well with my offensive mons, so I'm not too worried about them. It's particularly things like Lopunny that are hard to get chip off on. Lopunny can be one of those mons that only comes in when it's taking a kill. It can come in only as a revenge killer and only as a that kind of mon, which can be a real pain in the neck to actually get chip on it for your offensive mons. It can be very difficult. So T-Spikes is a very nice way of doing that. Every time it comes into revenge kill something, it takes a little bit of poison damage. Then we have our Swords Dance, Extreme Speed, Steelium Z with the Meteor Mash, of course. Lucario here, and this is exactly why I'm talking about getting things chipped down, because +2 Extreme Speed can kind of run through my opponent's team. The big thing stopping it would, of course, be the Dusknoir, where we have Steelium Z to nuke that. Close combat for Heatran. Raikou doesn't like taking knee speed if it's been chipped down by hazards and stuff, so getting our rocks up as well is pretty important. And then also, you know, the Steelium Z for the Uxie can be pretty nice too, but Uxie can't really do too much to me anyway. And then Licky, of course, doesn't take a close combat. So Lucario just looks insanely good as a wall breaker and potential late game cleaner in this game. I need to play it very carefully and make sure I use it wisely, but if I do, it just looks phenomenal here. Then we have a very FizzDef Rocky Helmet Zapdos. This thing is designed to take on Lopunny and get chip off on the Lopunny. I should say, this just reminded me, huge thank you to Eric, Strumpful, and Aquarius for helping me mock for this game. I believe it was only those 2 that helped me for this one, I think. Huge thank you to them for helping me mock, of course. I did thank them in the Team Builder, but I'm just remembering that I'm forgetting to do it now. Yeah, so this thing could just basically, again, help us chip down that Lopunny, put it into E-Speed range. Then we have a 4 attacks, Eject Button Scissor. This thing can basically come in on a return or Ice Punch prediction from Lopunny, Eject Button out into something like Lucario, or more likely the Mega Alakazam, which I'll get onto later. Bullet Punch, of course, really nice priority against things like the Lopunny too, and to some extent the Raikou, it will chip it down a little bit. Could just put it in E-Speed range if I need to. Other than that, we have Knockoff and Superpower plus U-Turn, which just hits everything on my opponent's team. Scissors coverage is amazing in this game. Then we have a relatively FizzDef Hydreigon. Might seem weird. It was here to help out with like the Bulu, for example. It is running the Chopal Berry. My opponent didn't bring the Bulu though, and Belch, so that we could take a high jump kick or a superpower from Bulu and then Belch the Bulu afterwards, which would be really nice. But other than that, it's still nice to potentially take a high jump kick and just Draco Meteor the Lopunny. We could potentially take, I think, like Dusknoir gets Drain Punch, which we are likely to be switching in on as we don't have a normal type on this team. We didn't bring the Dodrio, so we might be needing to take, I think, gets Drain Punch from that thing, maybe a Power Up Punch. I don't know, not too much really to worry about. But in general, it's still pretty nice to take it from Lopunny, and it's still kind of hard for my opponent to switch in. They haven't brought a Dark Resist apart from Lopunny, which isn't a Hydreigon switch in any world, so it looks like Dark Pulse is going to be relatively free. And then last up, we do have a timid 3 attacks Calm Mind Alakazam with Psy Shock on here, basically so that we can be a Calm Mind Raikou and we won't lose to that thing. Other moves are Shadow Ball, just for the Yuxi primarily, but it does also help with Dust Noir to some extent, and Focus Blast for the Heatran. So, with all that coverage, I think really offensively we have a very good matchup, and I spoke about this last week. What I want to do in this game is to make sure that I keep offensive momentum. Last week I positioned myself really, really poorly. This week I don't think I can risk that. With things like Extreme Speed on Lucario just able to win this game in the right positions, Mega Alakazam able to just win this game in the right positions, I can really, really look to keep up the pressure on my opponent and win this game swiftly, especially with hazard pressure. One thing I do need to be careful of is that Mega Alakazam is pressured by Fake Out plus Return and Shadow Sneak, but I can potentially get Rocky Helmet Chip off on both of those relatively weak priority moves with a Fizz Def Zapdos, so that can be pretty nice too. It does look like my opponent has a potential Trick Room core with double Trick Room setters in Dusk Noir plus Yuxi, but honestly, his Trick Room abusers would just be Heatran, and that is pretty scary, and Heatran is definitely his best offensive threat against me, and if I let Heatran get in under the Trick Room for 5 turns, then yeah, I'm going to be in trouble, or 4 turns, or whatever it would be, so I need to be careful about that, but otherwise, for the most part, I'm relatively not too concerned about my opponent's offensive matchup. Raikou is very handily dealt with by Nidoqueen, needs to be running extra Sensory, which isn't going to do too much unless it starts Calm Minding up, and what's his other kind of threat? I guess Lopunny, which is handled pretty nicely by Zapdos. So these back 3 here, I really don't perceive as threats at all. I can just break through his kind of fat core very, very swiftly with things like Lucario. So it's really just about making sure I don't auto lose to Heatran plus Mega Lopunny or Heatran plus Raikou, as long as I keep Zapdos and Nidoqueen at good ranges of health, then I feel like I'm in a position where I can do okay here. I can be pretty confident in my offensive pressure over his. So I decided to leave the Hearts because, like I said, I feel like hazard pressure is hugely important in this game. It wasn't a bad lead against anything on his team, really, especially the Heatran. Heatran is the most difficult thing for me to switch into. I am running some speed up my Nidoqueen, so if I could catch a potential slow Heatran, especially with him having the Trick Room core potentially on his team. It's not guaranteed, but there's a chance of it. Nidoqueen makes it difficult for him to stay in with his Heatran. That's the point. He might have to fear Scarf, he might have to fear whatever. So it's just a nice way of potentially me getting my hazards up, but also making sure that I don't have a bad lead against the one thing that I can't switch in on his whole team. If he decides to lead off with this, for example, I could stay in on the return and just get my rocks up, but I do want this thing around for Raikou. Raikou is a potential threat, so I am just going to go straight into Zapdos. There is the chance that he switches out here or just clicks Fake Out, because he isn't going to do, he isn't going to Oko my Nidoqueen by any stretch. So he could have just gone for the Ice Punch too, which wouldn't have been great. But regardless, he does go for the Fake Out, which is really, really nice, revealing that he does have the Fake Out on this set. I thought he probably would be, because Fake Out Quick Attack just looks great for Zam. But this is why I wanted Zapdos with Zam. I spoke about this in the team builder. This is why I thought these two paired really nicely, because weak priority like that, Zapdos just gets to potentially threaten Static and gets to get Rocky Helmet Chip off. Here I'm going to go for the U-turn, because even if he just clicks Return or Ice Punch or something like that again, I'm going to get in my Mega Alakazam and pretty much just claim a kill. I'm going to put him in a really tough spot, because if he wants to go hard into his best Psychic Resist, arguably in Heatran, the Yuxi's going to get Shadow Balled the next turn, so that's not really very helpful for him. If he goes into Heatran, then I'm going to trace this Flash Fire and then essentially be able to Calm Mind up on him. So I feel like, because I'd be Mega Evolving the turn he switches into the Heatran, so that's why I would trace it. So at this point in the game, getting my Mega Alakazam in there really early on the Lopunny feels fine, even if he gets huge chip off on the Zapdos. I'm just killing something. He's got to give me something, and I'm getting more Rocky Helmet Chip, which is slowly going to put him into Bullet Punch and Extreme Speed range. So I'm just going to go for the U-turn here, and that way if he does switch, Pedro is still at a good range of health. I can't necessarily take 2 returns on switching now, but I can just keep wearing him down with Rocky Helmet, and that's fine. And if I can get a Fake Out prediction right, then I can roost up later in the game. And I'm going to go into Lucario on this Licky, because as I said in the team preview, he just doesn't handle Cairo at all. This thing goes absolutely crazy against him. I'm clicking Sword Stance. I have really no reason not to click Sword Stance here. I don't think that he can threaten me with anything. He could Body Slam and try and paralyze me or something like that, but I'm not too concerned about Licky, and it would just be sacking it if he stayed in. So he goes out into Yuxi, and I'm just going to pop Astelium Z here at +2. This is a roll to kill if he's not like absolutely Fizz Def. It might even be a roll to kill Max Fizz Def. I don't think so. But he needs to be very physically defensive, and because Lucario can be such a good special attacker as well, I wasn't sure how physically defensive he'd be, so I was like, okay, if I can just clean this thing out, let me just pop my Z. I'm not too worried about anything else in his team. Let me just get rid of this thing. Unfortunately, we don't pick up the KO. I don't know if that was a low roll. I doubt it, because he survived with a decent amount of health as he gets his leftovers recovery and reveals the Trick Room. So now I am in a bit of a difficult spot, because if he Mementos here, I don't think Memento triggers Justified. Does it? It might do, actually. This was an interaction that during the game I was like, I don't think Memento triggers Justified. But now that I'm sitting here, I'm like, maybe it does. Like, maybe I was wrong. I don't know. Let me know down in the comments if Memento triggers Justified. I really can't. In the game, I was like, nah, it doesn't. And now I'm like, maybe it does. Either way, because I just don't know whether it does or not, and I don't think he ever U-turns here, I'm just going to go for another Swords Dance. I could have E-speeded him there and stopped him getting rocks up, but then the Heatran comes in, and I'm in a really tough spot. So I don't think he ever U-turns into Heatran, because I can KO him with close combat here. So U-turning into Heatran would be a pretty wild play. If he wants to go into Heatran, he has to Memento, and if he Mementos, there's no point me attacking anyway. So I might as well Swords Dance and try and stall out a turn of Trick Room, which is exactly what I did there, so that's why I went for the Swords Dance. And I'm going to do the same thing again here, because again, if he wants to Memento and KO me, that's fine, but I just want this Uxie on the field that can't really touch me for as long as possible, to run down these Trick Room turns as quickly as possible. I'm now pretty confident that Heatran is going to be a slow Heatran for Trick Room, and that's why he's brought the Trick Room. Otherwise, he doesn't have any real Trick Room abusers. So yeah, knowing that he just can't go into Heatran on a potential +4 close combat, and close combat probably was my best play there. I understand why he went into Dusk Noir. This thing would have been immune, of course. Had I gone for the Meteor Mash, this thing would have dropped, but then he would have gotten Heatran anyway, and I didn't really want that. So here I am just going to go for another Swords Dance. Like, what's this thing going to do? Like, Seismic Toss me? I'm just going to stall out the Trick Room, because now that I'm at +6, I clean his whole team. This is looking like a 6-0 to me. He can Seismic Toss me, he's going to do nothing. He can Will-O-Wisp me, but I'm at +6. So as far as I'm concerned, all I gotta do is stall out these Trick Room turns, and then I just E-speed through his whole team, and this is GG. As he reveals the Shadow Punch, I'm not too concerned about this until it does a load of damage, and I'm like, whoa, okay. I mean, we were already at +6. I thought we needed another one to get to +6, but yeah, I'm just essentially trying to stall out Trick Room, not let Heatran in under Trick Room. I figure at this point he's banded. I didn't run the calcs, but I was like, okay, that's looking like banded. That did huge damage. Didn't expect that much damage on my Lucario. I thought it was going to be a nice little Seismic Toss. Because remember, Dusk Noir is pretty weak, and Shadow Punch isn't even a very strong mood. And here the Trick Room ends. So you can see there, if we'd just taken those 2 Seismic Tosses and then Trick Room was over, then suddenly he's in a real problem, because he couldn't revenge kill me with Heatran outside of Trick Room. So that was my thinking. It didn't quite work out as I wanted. I considered just going for the Roost here, but instead I just fire off the Dark Pulse. I may as well get a little bit of pressure off if he goes out into Licky Licky. That essentially gives me Nidoqueen, which is what I really want, because I really want my hazards up. So I'm just going to pivot into my Nidoqueen here. I realize now that I need to be very careful of that Trick Room again, and as he goes for the Toxic, good play trying to poison my Hydreigon. The one thing I would say there is that I also could have gone hard into my Lucario. I didn't think it was worth it, because getting Seismic Tossed there and potentially just dying seemed pointless, a waste of a Lucario that could still extreme speed in this game and be very useful. But yeah, I don't know. The Toxic perhaps was a risky play, but it worked out even better for me that I just got Hearts in for free and didn't have to take a Seismic Toss. And here I'm just going to get up my T-Spikes, because I want that Dusk Noir being worn down. If it is banded, certainly it seems to be offensive, then it is a bit of a problem for my Mega Alakazam, and I can't extreme speed it, and it can potentially Shadow Sneak through my team. So getting that first layer of Toxic Spikes up is going to be huge. I spoke about in the team builder about only getting 1 layer of Toxic Spikes up, because I'm not too concerned about getting things badly poisoned. I just want the most amount of residual chip for the 1 turn there on the field, because I feel like this is going to be a very fast, very offensive game. I feel like there isn't going to be things sitting on the field for 5-6 turns recovering, and particularly the Dusk Noir seems to be very offensive, so I don't think it's been sitting there pain splitting. I think it's going to be coming in, clicking a move, switching out, coming in, clicking a move, switching out. So I want that 1 turn of poison to be the maximum damage I can get. Here, I don't want to allow him to Wish Pass into Uxie and get another Trick Room off. If the Dusk Noir is offensive, I don't think it has Trick Room itself, especially if it's banded. So I'm just going to fire off the Sludge Wave here. It would be a little bit of chip on Licky Licky. If Licky Licky got back up to full health, I wouldn't care. Licky Licky isn't a threat to my team, but it stopped that play. It stopped the Uxie switch coming in after Rock. Sludge Wave is always going to decimate Uxie there, and I've got my 1 layer of T-Spikes up, I've got my Rocks up, and there was a good chance that he could have looked at it and thought, This could be a taunt Nidoqueen. He could go for a second layer of toxic spikes, wanting to get things badly poisoned. I could have been Super Fang. I could have been any number of things to hit his Licky Licky. So especially the second layer of toxic spikes. So I understand why he tried to get his Uxie in there for free to get the wish back up. But there was no way I was going to allow that. Here he goes out into his Dust Noir. And again, I don't know too much about this thing yet. I could have done it if I'd calced. I could have tried to figure out exactly what this was. He's going to find my Sugar Berry here, so he knows that I'll be able to take like an Earth Power or whatever from certain things, the Heatran for example. But I'm just going to pivot out into my into my Hydreigon, as this is my dedicated check this thing. I should be able to take any hit from it, I think, as he fires off the Ice Punch here, and we die, which really surprises me, and it was a crit. And like I say, this was like max HP, quite a lot of Fizz Death Hydreigon, so at this point I was like, okay, I think that crit mattered, but I haven't been calcing. Maybe if he's like Adamant Choice Band, the crit didn't matter. I don't really know. I'm going to play this anyway by bringing Red in, because as far as I'm concerned now, he can't really stay in an Ice Punch again if he is choice locked, and he doesn't really have a great switch into me, as I just fire off the knockoff here, getting rid of any item. And if you wanted to go into Heatran, I particularly wanted to catch this thing's Choice Scarf, because Choice Scarf Heatran was something I saw in Mox as a revenge killer to Scizor and more specifically Lucario. It doesn't look like it's going to be Choice Scarf on a Trick Room team. Like I say, I think this is going to be mid-speed. We click Knockoff and we don't see an item there, I don't think, which shows me he's Z. And at this point, I'm like, okay, he's Trick Room Tran. I have quite a bit of speed on my Scizor, so I'm going to outspeed a Trick Room Heatran or a Trick Room Prep Heatran. So I just go for the Super Power here and take my KO. He's not Triple Berry or anything, so I'm just like, yeah, goodbye. I'm pretty happy to take that KO. This thing was the hardest thing for me to switch into, and having lost my Hydreigon, I didn't have anything that I could switch in on it anymore, barring like a Trace, Mega Alakazam, but I haven't got my Mega off yet. So that just felt like a much better way of kind of taking the KO that was available to me and dealing with it like that. Here I'm just going to go for the U-turn. I don't think he's going to go for a Thunderbolt, and he doesn't. He just goes for the Shadow Ball. I'm going to get fired out with my eject button, which sucks because I don't get the U-turn chip. But it's okay. Like, I knew this was going to happen. I just didn't want to take unnecessary chip on Nidoqueen when Nidoqueen has already taken a little bit of chip in this game. And now Nidoqueen is in, and his 1 ground immunity in Uxie is gone. So suddenly my Earth Power looks a lot better than it did earlier in the game. This actually looks like a really difficult spot for him. He doesn't get any chip off on the Raikou. And one thing that I'm looking at with that Raikou is I'm thinking, alright, why did he go for Shadow Ball? He didn't go for Extra Sensory, he went for Shadow Ball. Well, Shadow Ball, now that Hydreigon is gone, is neutral against my whole team. So with that, I'm kind of thinking maybe he's choiced, maybe he's choiced Specs or something, but that didn't do very much to my Scizor, so maybe he's choiced Scarf Raikou, so I'm like, that's a bit weird, but maybe he's choiced Scarf. He isn't shiny, so that means that he's not running Aura Sphere. That's one interesting thing to note. So I don't know at this point. I'm quite intrigued, but I'm not too sure. Here I can just fire off the Earth Power. Like I say, it's unresisted against his team. Licky Licky comes in, sure. Maybe this is the point where having 2 layers of T-Spikes would be nice because it'd be racking up, but I don't mind just basically cancelling out his leftovers and keeping him down at about 50%. And I believe here, I just go back into Scizor, yeah, exactly, because this thing, again, can exert pressure. He can't really Wish Pass on me. He doesn't want to take a Superpower particularly. It just really puts him in a difficult spot, as he does just go for the Seismic Toss, probably trying to prevent that Lucario switch that I mentioned earlier in the game, which is exactly why I didn't go into Lucario there, having shown the Toxic earlier and stuff. Like, I figured he might Wish there, but it just wasn't worth risking Lucario when Extreme Speed still looks so nice. Here, I thought about just superpowering, but I was like, he could easily just go into his Dust Noir, predicting the superpower. As I've said multiple times in this game, Licky Licky isn't a threat to me. I'm not scared of Licky Licky, so I'm actually just going to go for the knockoff. If he chooses to stay in and Wish, he's going to get his leftovers knocked off. He then has to protect to get himself back to a good range of health, otherwise I can just superpower him the next turn, or I can keep spamming knockoff and just get my Lucario in for free, and then I can kill him with my Lucario. There's any number of plays that I can make here that basically pressure things, but I'm just going to click knockoff because I don't want him to go hard into Dust Noir on my superpower and get this thing in for free, as it is a little bit of a threat, and I am in Shadow Sneak range now, and I also just want to get rid of the Licky Licky leftovers. It just feels like a really good mid-ground to me, where it looks like an aggressive prediction, but really I win either way from making that play, or I get the most out of the turn, I should say, either way from making that play. So that's why I felt like that was really the way to go. Here he brings in the Lopunny. I believe I go hard into Zapdos. I could just Bullet Punch here, But if he fakes out and I bullet punch, it's really hard for me to get enough chip on this thing to put it in extreme speed range from Lucario, and that is the way that I'm beating this thing now, especially with the Dust Noir going down and not having the Shadow Sneak priority to pick off my Lucario. My Lucario looks insane in this game, so it's a really tough thing where I'm like, is he going to fake out and KO me and then I don't get the bullet punch chip? Is he going to, return and do massive damage to my incoming Zapdos after rocks? I don't know. Either way, I want the guaranteed Rocky Helmet plus poison damage. I don't want to deal with this thing not being in extreme speed range, I mean missing out on a roll, and then him just quick attacking through the team, or something like that, as he goes for a power-up punch here and gets a +1, another potential problem. And my Scissor's so low that it can't switch in on rocks anymore, so obviously that isn't ideal. It seems like, you're just throwing away your Zapdos when you could have just sacked your Scissor. But positioning wise, I need this Rocky Helmet chip on Lopunny if I'm going to beat this thing with my priority. And as you see here, he's going to go for the second return. It's going to, or for a return, sorry, it's going to take a lot of chip with Rocky Helmet. This is slowed right down. I apologize for the lag. My computer's not especially good. We'll speed that up a little bit. I'm going to slow it back down now that the Zapdos off the field. Zapdos lagging me out there. He doesn't get static, by the way, on 3 attacks. Well, I suppose he's poisoned now, so it was only 1. Yeah, that was a pretty stupid comment. Yeah, regardless, we're going to E-speed the Lopunny here. He's super low now. This is always going to kill. Maybe I could have just sacked Scissor and then gone into Zapdos and sacked Zapdos. But, I mean, now I have an offensive sack that I can sack in the back in Scissor. So, it just didn't seem worth... yeah, it didn't seem worth giving 2 months for the price of 1 when I always was going to need Rocky Helmet chip on him, in essence. So here we're just going to pivot out with Lucario into Scissor. This is exactly what I'm talking about. We can see what he wants to go for with this Raikou, and crucially, we can stop him getting chip off on that Nidoqueen. This is what I was talking about at the beginning of the game, making sure that I maintain my defensive checks to his only offensive win cons, because I'm not worried about his defensive win cons in my Nidoqueen and my Zapdos. So we're going to go out into Gato here. And we're just going to be able to fire off a Psyshock. If he is Scarf, he shouldn't be able to OHKO me with Shadow Ball. And if he isn't Scarf, then I'm going to be able to kill him before he even gets an attack off. Anyway, he doesn't have a switch in to my Psyshock anymore. We trace pressure. It doesn't really matter. Wow, this is really lagging. I'm really sorry about this. My computer is not the best. Is that even going fast enough now? That's still slow, isn't it? Let's go to 1.4 speed. Jesus, I'm so sorry about this. So, Sword and Shield coming soon, and then we'll have a proper Elgato recording, and it'll be good quality. So yeah, we can just go for Psyshock. He does reveal to be Scarf. Didn't really expect that. It was a loose possibility, but yeah, not something I was really expecting. But it doesn't matter either way. Like I say, we always took that Shadow Ball from Scarf, and now we're able to just pick off this thing with a Psyshock. I don't have to risk the Focus Blast miss because we were able to pressure this thing and keep it really, really low, which is between the Nidoqueen chip and everything else. So we do pick up, I believe, a 4-0 win. Scissor and Hydreigon. Oh no, and Zapdos. We pick up a nice 3-0 win in week 6, and your Bowler and Bovines move up to a 4-2 record. Really, really crucial with just 2 weeks left. That at the worst this season, all we can do is break even, which seems okay. So, pretty happy with that. Let me know what you guys think of the team and the match down in the description. I really apologize. I really want to apologize for the lag. Yeah, it's not good. Not good quality content, but what do you expect? Regardless, next week we won't have an upload for this. I want to clarify this, so if you watched this far, thank you. We won't have an upload next week for the PGBL. There will be Sword and Shield gameplay up next week, I believe, instead. The reason that we won't have a upload a league game isn't because I want to upload Sword and Shield instead or anything like that. It's because, although I'm pretty excited to do that, but it's because my opponent next week, Skyrander, unfortunately had, or this week I should say, kind of, had to forfeit the match against us. So we are given a free win next week, which is pretty nice, and we move to a 5-2 record unless anything changes, unless I'm told that a replacement has come in and that I have to play them even though we're now past the deadline or whatever, I don't know. But yeah, as things stand, well, we're not quite past the deadline, but nearly. We should be getting a forfeit win next week. And then in the final week, we were playing Frosted. 5-2 record. I don't think that we will miss out on playoffs, even if we lose to Frosted. That being said, because Frosted, I believe, will be battling it out to secure her playoff spot, I will be taking the game seriously out of respect for the other coaches in the league. Having said that we've beaten everyone in our division, and Frosted is in our division, I think if I didn't take that game seriously and just memed it, Frosted made playoffs because she beat me when every other coach lost to me because I took it seriously. that would feel cheap to me. That doesn't feel right. So we will be taking that game seriously. Hopefully we can pull out another win and we can finish the regular season at 6-2. I think that would probably put us at top seed in the division potentially, which would be awesome, but I don't know. The website isn't super up to date, so I don't know the other results. I'm just speculating here, but all we can do is try and push for a 6-2 record, try and push to hopefully be the top coach of the division, hopefully get the week 1 bye, and be straight in at the semi-final round, I think, if I'm understanding how playoffs work in this league, but I might be mistaken. Regardless, guys, I'm going to shut up now because I do have a tendency to ramble on. Thank you so much for loafing around with me, and I'll catch you again next time.